Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Ask Me Anything. Thanks for being a part of this. I have no problem saying that doing these Ask Me Anythings is by far my favorite thing about being a YouTube person. So thanks for being a part of this. We got a lot of good questions in advance. Did you know that if you're one of my Patreon subscribers or YouTube channel members, I'm guaranteed to answer your question. I'm not going to guarantee that you'll like the answer, but I am guaranteeing that I will respond to your question. So I'll make sure to hit those, but I'm really going to try to get everybody's questions. If you are not a Patreon person or YouTube member, there's links to do that in my video description. And if you don't want to sign up for that, that's fine. You can still support me by buying gear using my affiliate link from Perfect Circuit. Did you know that? If you want to buy like a pedal or like a cable or whatever, you can just buy it from Perfect Circuit. And if you get to the Perfect Circuit website by using my affiliate link, which I put in the video description, I will get a small commission from that. Okay, that concludes the annoying bullshit part of the program. I will now be engaging with the chat commenters and the people who submitted questions. Hello, Duderinos. Yes, hello. It's an exciting time for all of us Duderinos. LOL. Yes, hello. Hello, my LOLs. You are all my little LOLs, and I love you all. Look at this. What should my topic be for my U.S. history final? You get to pick the topic. That seems like it could go horribly wrong. The teacher's just like, the final, you decide what's on the final. I don't know, man. You should make if you could do that, you should just make the final like, how do I spell my own name? And then nail it. That's my advice to you, big guy. Sounds like it's going to go well. All right, let me do some of the pre-submitteds. Obviously, I will be starting with the pre-submitted questions from my Patreon subscribers because I made a special promise to them that I would answer their questions no matter what. And I'm a man of my word. All right, here's the first question from Zachary S. What is the best breakfast pairing food to have with a glass of Tropicana? You know, I really like to give myself a softball question to start with. So thank you for this exquisite softball question. You know, if you see my AMAs before, I think I've demonstrated that like I'm willing to take the questions pretty seriously and like I'm willing to talk about some hardcore emotional shit. It's nice not to have to start hitting the ground running with any of that though. It's nice to be able to answer some fluff like this. So thank you, Zachary, for this. Best breakfast pairing food to have with a glass of Tropicana. I think it's a bagel sandwich with bacon, egg, and cheese. Right? Also, I like cheddar cheese on my bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. That's the one thing that makes me sort of like an annoying asshole, is that I don't really like American cheese on those. I prefer cheddar cheese. And a lot of times, if you ask for cheddar cheese, they'll just like give you American cheese anyway. So sometimes I have to ask for something that's like more different. Like I'll ask for provolone or something, which I like. Anyway, that's the answer to the question. But, you know, I also think orange juice goes really well with Mexican food, like the spices there, or, you know, the kind of Mexican food I grew up eating in Englewood, New Jersey. That was like prepared by Japanese Americans, whatever, you know, that food that I love, the spices in that goes good with orange juice. So I would say maybe there's like a breakfast thing there, you know, like huevos rancheros. Those are my answers. I wish you the best. Okay, cool. Let's keep banging these out. What else could go wrong? All right, here's a question from a different Patreon person. This is from Sonia L. I think it's Sonia. I don't know if it's Sonja. We've been through this. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong again. But here's the question. What was that sweet vintage white Stratocaster type you were playing on the Emmys? Thanks for the guitar quad. I'm always blown away when people want me to talk about the guitars I own. I mean, I don't even really care about hearing people talk about the guitars they own. You know what I mean? Like if Jeff Beck wanted to talk about what guitars he has, I'd be like, yeah, I might watch that. I might skip it. Okay. But you're a Patreon person, so I am obligated to answer your question. So let me do that. It's a real Fender Stratocaster. It's actually an actual American-made Fender Strat, but I did have it painted. And good eye that it's vintage white. I had it painted. The color is called vintage white. I guess you already know that. But for anybody else watching, Fender sells a paint color called vintage white that is the color of Olympic white after it's been aged 60 years. Look at this, Lean Lizzy. I'm going to pause the answer Say hi to my friend Liam Lizzy. Hey man, thanks again for helping me out with that Octatrack video. Anybody who's here because of my synth shit, don't even listen to me because of my synthesizer talking. Listen to Liam Lizzy synthesizer talk. He knows more than I do. I listen to this. I was working on a video about the Electron Octatrack, which was by far the hardest piece of gear I've ever had to deal with in my life. And I asked Liam Lizzy if I could ask him questions about it. We've never met in real life. We're just like YouTube buddies. And he said yes, and I video called him, and he picked up. And I have to tell you, there's like no greater kindness than like answering a fucking video call from someone you don't even know. I mean, I was amazed by the generosity when you picked up my video calls. I'll never forget it. Thank you again. So anyway, everybody look at his channel. He's good at explaining stuff. I started asking him questions about the Octatrack, and he like didn't even need to have it in front of him. He was like, "Oh yeah, here's how you do that. You just hold function and push the right arrow, and then go into the menu." And he was like putting on his socks or whatever. He didn't even have it in front of him. I was amazed. All right, cool. Thanks for being a part of this, man. Everybody watching, check out Liam Lizzy. Back to the question about my guitar. Right. So Fender makes a paint color that is what Olympic white looks like after 60 years. You know, actually, I wonder if it's specifically Olympic white with a nitro cellulose finish, right? Because nitro like makes colors look more yellow, and this is kind of yellow. Anyway, I had a Fender Strat that was a sunburst. You know, the Fender Strats where it's like black on the outside, and then it turns sort of maroon, and then it becomes wood. I had a Fender Strat that looked like that, and it was like it was the first real guitar I ever got when I was like 14. I've done a million things to it. I like changed the pickups, I put in special push pull bullshit on the knobs. You know, it's like the guitar I sort of grew up with. But at a certain point, I just could not relate to having a Starburst Fender Strat. I like Strats, but the Starburst was just like, you know what I mean? I just felt like I was Eric Clapton or some asshole. I was just like, why am I having this? So I painted it that cool white, and then I also made all the hardware black. So it was just like black and then this weird off-white. But when I painted it, you know, I wanted to be so hostile that we also painted the headstock and the back of the fingerboard. So it's like white everywhere, and we painted over the logo on the headstock. So everyone was always like, "Ooh, what kind of guitar is that?" It's just a Fender that I painted. Thanks for caring about it. You know, should I say more? I don't know. Does anybody really care about this? You know, I'm flattered that you care, but if you need me to say more things about what kind of pickups are in it or whatever, get in the comments. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume you got enough information already. Okay. Then I'm going to put two questions together. Here's a question from Kyle, which is, what is the first and last thing you do when you practice? And then I also got a question that was, are there any stretches you use to keep your limbs limber? And I'll answer the questions, but I'm not really sure these are going to be good answers. I mean, do I have any stretches that I use to keep my limbs limber? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't stretch at all. I don't do anything like that. You know, I mean, I haven't got any injuries. Maybe I'm just not, you know, you're like not supposed to be tense when you play, right? Like you shouldn't be like struggling. So maybe I'm doing that right. But I don't stretch or do anything like that. And then what is the first and last thing when you practice? You know, there was a while when I was a teenager, I like practiced shit that sounds like, oh, that guy's practicing. Like I would do scales and arpeggios and stuff my guitar teacher told me to do for the sake of doing it. You know, I don't really do that anymore, though. I mean, when I practice now, I'm like practicing something I need to be able to play for the gig or for the YouTube video. It's like whatever the assignment is, you know, if I have a concert coming up and I have to be able to play this thing, then that's the thing I'm practicing. Or like, I'm working on a YouTube gear video now about Boss pedals, and one of my little pro tip songs is I play the solo from Bohemian Rhapsody, which I've always wanted to do. And so I was like practicing that. I already kind of knew how to play it. I think the last time I like listened to the record to figure it out and figured it out, I was in college. So I like got most of it, but then I like listened to it again, and like my ears are a little better than they used to be. So I wanted to see if I heard anything else. And there were a couple subtleties there. So I like practiced that a lot. That's one of those solos where it's like, you know, kind of hard to get right and then extremely hard to get perfect. One thing I came to appreciate is the sense of time behind it. There's that little descending lick with the trills. That's not how it goes, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The way he like time the rhythm of those, he's like going in and out of triplet feel, and he like hesitates. It's like some of the coolest rhythmic feel playing ever. So I have to practice that. I mean, also I reached a point where I'm like, I'm not doing everything exactly the way he's doing it, but I found my own way to do it that I also thought was cool, that also required me to practice. So like that's what me practicing is. Like I'm just trying to play something to make sure I can play it. I'm not really like it's been a while since I like practiced playing Dorian in triplets. I mean, that's something I did. I'm not a kid anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's like with Hendrix too. Exactly. The feel in some ways, like, it's hard to play like Steve Vai because he can play like impossible shit, you know. But it's also hard to play people who are a lot slower than that because their sense of rhythm is like fucking cool. I mean, I almost like didn't even hear this when I was a kid. Like it just sounded cool because it was Jimi Hendrix and because it was like oozy and sexual and like forceful. Like I picked up on those qualities and I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, you know? But I feel like the more precise you get at hearing stuff, the more you start to appreciate how like he's sort of nursing the beat, you know? I mean, everything Jimi Hendrix did was cool, but I talk about him on every single Ask Me Anything. All right, let's keep going. Oh, I gotta delete the questions after I answer them though, so I don't answer them again. How annoying would that be? Is if I just answered like the same 3 questions over and over and over again? I feel like you guys would just think I was like doing that on purpose to be annoying. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That I've just created this brand identity where it's like I could go insane and like lose my mind, and people just be like, "Yep, that's him doing one of his bits." You know, I sort of hope that doesn't happen. I hope I don't ever need like severe medical attention and everyone was just like, oh, that cyber attack's being pretty cool. All right, here's a big question from Jim H. Oh, what happened here? Oh, it's split up in the comments. A nice long question. I would love a friendly shove in the right direction when it comes to playing voicings other than cowboy or bar chords. When playing in a group or trying to fit in a part of a mix, it's rare that a big 6-note chord is the answer. Good that you already know that. Not everybody who can only play those chords has even noticed that yet. So good that you noticed that. I have no issue with this on keyboard, but mainly maybe because of being a latecomer to guitar, I just have no idea what to do here other than fumbling single note by single note until I find something that sounds okay. Well, it's a little hard for me to do this and Ask Me Anything. Like, I think it's good to sort of systematically learn all the different 3-note chord voicings you could think of, right? I mean, if you play keyboard, it's like, one way to play a chord is to just do the root and then the third and then the fifth. But then you could also make the lowest note the third and then the second note the fifth and then make the highest note an octave of where the root would be. That's what an inversion is. You can do the same thing starting on the fifth too. So, each group of strings on the guitar has its own sort of set of shapes for that, where you're just playing these 3-note chords. It's good to learn that in a systematic way. I mean, I teach guitar over Zoom. I teach my students that. It's good to do it that way. That's not the most fun answer to get on Ask Me Anything, though. So the other thing you could do would be like take your bar chords and then only play the high strings of it, right? If you like play a barred chord, but then you just take your hands off everything except the 3 highest notes and then you refinger it so it's easy to play those 3 highest notes, that's going to be a good chord. It's just the high strings. It's going to have a chirp. You can strum it quicker because it's fewer strings. It's the top of the guitar. That's going to come right through. So you can sort of like discover chord shapes by just looking at the top of every bar chord, and attacking that. So that would be a good thing to try. And then if you're so good at keyboard, you could just like find the chord you want to play on the keyboard and then just figure out how to play that on the guitar. That's another thing you could do. Did you have any orange juice today? I actually don't even drink that much orange juice anymore. I know I made a bunch of videos about orange juice and I have a lot to say about it, but in the last couple of years, I stopped drinking it. I still consume an insane amount of sugar. Don't worry about that. You ever see in the grocery store they make those little like yogurts that then have like the M&Ms and shit on it, and you like dump the M&Ms in the yogurt, like you're 7 years old or something. I love eating that stuff. I'll eat that for lunch. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just decided like whatever. I haven't been drinking that much orange juice anymore. I'd rather just eat food and drink water. That's what a fucking dull person I am. And then afterward, I'll like eat a yogurt with M&Ms or a candy bar or something. That's what I'm doing now. That's my current approach to life. Oh, look at this guy. Learning all the triads and all their inversions is so useful, but so boring sometimes to practice. Yeah, you're not wrong, but like everybody uses those. Eddie Van Halen uses the middle string triads all the time, like Unchained or whatever. All his little cool chord progression riff shit is always the middle string short form. So if it's really so boring, just like learn a song that uses it, or even better, like figure out a song that's not using it and then use your boring little chord shapes to like hit each chord of that song, even if that's not how the guy in the song is playing it, right? So if you learn some song, it's like, E minor, G major, D sus4, A7 sus4, aka Wonderwall, that's all those open strings, but like figure out a different way to play each of those chords using your little boring triad chord shapes. That's a good exercise to do. Hey now, so good at keyboard was never part of the discussion. LOL, great answer. Thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being hostile. I apologize. That I was aware as I was saying that it was sort of needlessly provocative. I'm sorry. I do apologize. It was like affectionate, right? I'm from New Jersey. I've sort of like a hostile personality. You're right to call me back on that. Anybody, feel free to attack me at any reason for anything. You're free to lodge objections here. You know what I mean? I'm not going to suspend your Twitter account just because you said something I didn't like. Okay, I'm not that kind of person. So you're right, and please accept my apology for being needlessly hostile to you. I swear to God, though, I was being hostile with affection. It's kind of disappointing that you don't. Oh, this is coming from the same guy. Kind of disappointing you don't roll with Pulpy OJ. Yeah, I don't. I think it's disgusting. It's too. Like if I wanted real orange juice, I wouldn't be buying it from a fucking CVS. You know what I mean? like the reason I buy fucking fake orange juice from the fake food store is because I want it to be some sort of like distortion pedal version of orange juice. I want like the bad pitch shifter version of orange juice where there's like no pulp and less acid. I mean, I made a whole video where I talk about this. Like if I wanted pulp in the orange juice, I just squeeze some fucking oranges myself. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to like commune with nature over here. I just want to drink some like fake stuff that reminds me of like chewing bubble gum or something. Look at this. Attack me anything. That's really good. That's really, I might have to use that. Thank you for that. What's your name? Hill Duggan. I don't understand what kind of name that is, but that's great. Attack me anything. You get a prize for that. Thank you. Okay. All right, let's keep going. These are good questions. I love you guys. Here's like a random one from Instagram. I have no idea how to say this person's name. Do you like country music? From ADR1 Jamin. There's this country music that I like. I don't know a ton about this shit. I don't know a ton about it. But there's stuff I've heard that I like that makes me think I might like country music. I mean, like the sort of jazzy country music of like Chet Atkins or Merle Travis or Danny Gatton. I'm into that stuff. That stuff is cool. I like Johnny Cash just like everybody else. There's certain sort of pop music that is like has a, I don't know, to me it sounds like that's influenced by country music, but I don't know enough country music to know if that's real or not. But like I like Sheryl Crow, and there's shit in there that makes me think of country music. Or like I like some of the country shit that the Eagles did, you know. Peaceful, Easy Feeling. I love that song. That's like almost entirely a 3-chord song, except then every once in a while they stick in a 4th chord and it's an A minor 7. It's so good. I mean, I don't remember if I've talked about this already. I like the Eagles. Have we addressed this? They get a lot of hate. I got no problem saying I like the Eagles. I mean, Peaceful, Easy Feeling to me makes me think that like I understand California. And like I don't fucking know if I understand California. But like when I was just a kid growing up in New Jersey, you know what I mean, walking to CVS to buy my junk, I would hear that song and be like, whoa, yeah, okay. I want to sleep in the desert too. I get it. You know, it sounds like that girl's got a nice tan. You know, bet she's hot. Fuck yeah. You know, so I feel like just like the fact that you know, I felt like they were able to like make me understand some shit that I wasn't gonna understand. I just respect that. So I don't know if the Eagles counts as country music, but in my sort of fake world where everything is just constantly fake all the time, I'm saying, yeah, I guess I do like country music. I hope this was an acceptable answer. Joe Walsh definitely knows what he was doing with his tone. True, he did, but I like the Eagles even before that. You know, yeah, I like Peaceful Easy Feelings before that. Lion Eyes is before him. Already Gone is before him. I like all those songs. I fucking love Glenn Frey's voice. I mean, I know Don Henley's voice, I feel like is maybe the sort of easier to remember and maybe the more distinct. And I like it too. But Glenn Frey to me is like the ultimate like plain singer. Like the way he sings very plainly, I'd like. There's something like I feel like, okay, I can do something with that, you know? Let me tell you, got some news for you, and you'll soon find out it's true. And then you'll have to eat your lunch all by yourself. He's just like saying the words, you know? Like there's something kind of incredible about that. Like, okay, so I just pronounce the things, you know? Okay, like I could maybe sing like that if we're just gonna pronounce the words, you know. So I feel like I like them too because they had like the biggest fucking hits of all time, and like Glenn Frey is just like saying stuff very simply and plainly and making it sound good. I was into that. Do you guys know what I'm talking about at all? Like, was my impression of Glenn Frey like at all satisfactory? Let me see if I can think of another example. I can't. So yeah, that's another reason why I like them. Has there ever been How to Be Advanced that was difficult to make, or does it usually come together pretty smooth? The Octa track was hard for me to make. I had to learn how to use that piece of gear. That's a hard piece of gear to learn. So that's the hardest one I ever did. Then I just put out one about major triads and sort of like my first music theory video called Major Triads How to Be Advanced. I didn't think that was going to be so hard because I didn't have to play 5 little things. I just play this one Stevie Wonder song that I had some fun doing, but it's like one musical piece instead of 5. And then I just have to talk about major triads. But then I sort of, in the middle of it, I sort of got bogged down with going through this list of how like every chord can sort of be reconceived in your mind as like a major triad somewhere and then like one bass note under it, and depending on how far apart they are, you can like sort of fake any chord. And then like that became a huge part of the video, is like trying to come up with every possible chord quality that way. I'd be like, oh, I forgot to do augmented major 7. I only did augmented dominant 7. Like, and then at a certain point I was just like, who is this for? Like, no one's gonna fucking watch this video where I'm just listing chords and then explaining how to think of it in this one really annoying specific way. So, you know, I had a sort of a crisis in the middle of making that one. So that was a hard one. What else was hard for me? I mean, I've sent some back. I've sent pedals back not because I think they're bad, but just because like I can't find 5 unusual things to do with them. I can only sort of use them the way they're meant to be used. And I don't really need to make a video where I'm just showing you what it's supposed to do. Like everybody else's video, it's like you're gonna get 99 videos of what it's supposed to do, then one video of a chick playing a harp that's gonna be different and cool, and then my video. You know what I mean? You don't need 100 videos of what it's supposed to do. So if I feel like I can't do the video where it's like this is what it's not supposed to do, I'll send it back. But it's not because I think the pedal sucks. Every pedal I've sent back has been from a company that I like, that I've made videos about. The companies I don't want to do their stuff, I just don't do it. Nor, first I'll ask for an amount of money that is so crazy that if they say I will give you that much money, then I want to do it again. I give them the amount of money where it's like they're gonna say no, but if they say yes, I'm gonna be in a much better mood. And then they usually say no, and I don't do the pedal. Thank you for that question. All right. Well, I'm getting behind here. Beginner guitarist, welcome. Just 1 year in playing. Any words of advice? Finished the Fender lessons, feeling pretty good and getting creative with it. Well, that sounds like it's going well, man. Getting creative with is like the whole fucking point. I would say as long as you feel like you're getting creative with what things are going well. But don't get too spooked if you stop feeling like you're creative. That's part of it too. Creativity is not just this like endless fucking fountain that just flows and flows and flows and flows all the time. I mean, there are people for whom it seems like it is that, but it's not for me. So if it's not for you, don't worry. Continuing to learn new stuff is cool. If you really do get stuck, it can be cool to try to learn something that's like not your instrument. You know what I mean? Like, see if you could figure out how to play a piano part in a Queen song on guitar, or see if you could figure out how to play a Stevie Wonder harmonica solo on guitar. That can be cool. You could steal stuff from that won't sound cliche because it's from a different instrument. And then the last thing I'll say is make sure that the lessons you are taking are from the video packs you're buying or from the guitar teacher that you're finding. Make sure that what you're learning here is like eventually leading to understanding music in a way that is just bigger than the instrument. It's like, obviously you got to start on the instrument. So you're going to be learning this is how you play a G major chord on the guitar. This is how you learn to play a scale on the guitar. These are the names of the strings on the guitar. Obviously that's important. But at a certain point, make sure that you're learning that like the way chords and scales and keys work together is bigger than the guitar, right? Like if you play a major scale or a pentatonic scale or a B minor 7 chord, nothing about any of those things belongs to the guitar. And make sure you start to learn on some level. I guess what I mean here is like learn music theory sooner or later. But people get uptight if you call it music theory, and that sounds more academic than it needs to be. Whatever it is, just make sure you're sort of learning how to like understand music and speak the language of music so that you can listen to other stuff and learn from it and teach yourself from that. Right? Like the best any music teacher can ever do is like teach you enough of how the instrument works and how how music basically works so that you can start to hear things and figure it out and then look at it and be like, oh, so I guess what he's doing there is like, even though he's playing over a minor 7 chord, he's actually hitting the major 7th too. And there's like a tension there, but he just lets it be that. It's sooner or later you want to get to a point where you can make observations like that, because then you can teach yourself anything. It's okay if you're not there yet. I'm not trying to spook you, Justin. Don't be afraid, Justin. But I'm just saying, like, you might get through all the Fender lessons and then feel like, now what? And the now what is either, if you can teach yourself by listening to music you're interested in, good, do that. If you can't do that, it might be time to find a real guitar teacher. At some point, I'm going to make a video called Choosing a Guitar Teacher, How to Be Advanced. Also, I do teach guitar on Zoom. So I should have put the link in this video. The link isn't in this video. What a fucking failure. Jesus. In like any one of my other videos, there's a link to get in touch with me about lessons, or just email me. What am I doing? Just email me. My email address is in my YouTube bio. It's cyberattack.world@gmail.com. Still doing that Gmail email address because of how dumb it is. So yeah, just if you want to take lessons from me, feel free to send me an email. That question was actually reminds me of a different question I got that I want to hit from one of my Patreon BFFs. Yeah, here we go. It's another Sonia question. I'm like right there. I kind of already started talking about it. You've mentioned an instructor and my love of Van Halen, but who taught you and who inspired you to be advanced? So the guitar teacher who really sort of formed me is this guy in northern New Jersey named Ed Furman. You can look him up. Just search Ed Furman New Jersey guitar lessons. You'll find him. If you're in like the tri-state area, you should just call him because that guy's a better player than I am and a better guitar teacher than I am. So just if you're near that part of the world, just call him. I started taking lessons from him when I was 13. And I was lucky I found him because by the time I was 13, I'd already taken piano lessons for like 5 years. But I was just learning how to read music and learning how to play, you know, little piano classical music shit for like a little kid, like, you know, like the Bach prelude that everybody's heard, you know, stuff like that. So I knew what like a key signature was, but I just knew how to read music and I didn't know anything about what was happening. It was just like, here's how you read that, here's how you play that. And I sort of got fed up because number one, I liked rock and roll music. And number two, like I wasn't learning how to do stuff. Then I switched to guitar when I was like 12 and I started taking lessons from a kid who was like a year older than me in my town. And he could play. He was good. Like I would hear him play shit and I would just be like, "Man, I want to do that." You know, but he was just a kid. So those lessons, he showed me like a pentatonic scale and that was like kind of mind-blowing. But then it would just be like, "What song do you want to learn?" And then I would pick a song that I like wasn't ready to play and then he would just like painstakingly show me like I remember we did Purple Haze and it was just like, if you want to learn how to play Purple Haze, well, the first note is here. So put your finger there. And then the next note is there. So put your finger there. And then the note after that is here. So put your finger there. And like, you know, the idea that like the riff to Purple Haze is kind of just the blues scale, like no part of it. I would not have understood any part of the sentence I just said. Like I was only learning how to play Purple Haze one note at a time. Nothing else about the fingerboard made any sense to me. It was very difficult. But he was good and it was sort of cool to be able to play the pentatonic scale and like blindly find, like I would move the pentatonic scale up and down the neck and listen to a song and then find the spot where it sounded like I was in the key of the song and then just play there. So like that was exciting, but I only knew that one scale and I didn't know how to do anything else. And I started to worry that in order to be able to like do stuff beyond that, you needed to be a genius. Like I just didn't understand how people could look at the fingerboard and like see all the notes, or how people could come up with stuff, or people could hear stuff and then be able to play it back so quickly, or how people could improvise. Like all of that felt like it was off limits. And so I was starting to worry that like it's off limits because there's some gifts you're supposed to have that I do not have. I mean, I didn't want to believe that, but I'd taken piano lessons for like 5 years. And like I didn't know how to translate any of that to guitar. I didn't even know what I was doing. And then, you know, it was like fucking hard to play Purple Haze. And, you know, I was just starting to worry. Then a friend of mine started taking lessons, found Ed first, my future guitar teacher. So he started taking lessons with Ed while I was taking lessons from the kid in my town. And I've been playing longer, but then the kid taking lessons from Ed started to like make progress faster. And I was like such a competitive, like shitty little kid that I was like, I can't let my friend be better at me than this. I was like, no. In our band, I'm the lead guitarist and you're the rhythm guitarist. So we got to put a stop to this. And so I was like so competitive that then I like wanted to check out this guitar teacher he was taking lessons from. And it was clear that like, okay, that's a real guitar teacher and like a real guitar player. So I started taking lessons from him. And then for the first time, it became clear that like this guy's going to teach me stuff in a way where it's like, okay, here's the keys to the car. Like you can drive it now. Like here's what music is. Here's how you do music on a guitar, but here's how you like do stuff with music. And I've been so afraid that like I wouldn't ever be able to do that. That when I realized this guy was showing me how to do it, I was just like, okay, I'm going to obey everything this guy tells me to do. I'm just going to obey. Like I'm going to believe everything he says, and anything he tells me to practice, I'm going to practice. And I'm like not going to miss a lesson. And like I am just going to this guy is the master, and I'm just going to do everything he tells me to do. And then for the next 5 years, like until I was like 18, about to go to college, I just had a weekly lesson and I took it really seriously. And he was cool too, because he was, I mean, he was a good teacher, but he was also good at kind of like, sometimes I would come back and say, well, you told me to play it like this, but then in that, so it's like, how come in the solo for You Shook Me All Night Long, it's all major chords, but then it's like major in the key of G, but he's playing B flat sometimes, and like in the key of G it should be a B natural, and you didn't show him, like, what do you do with that? And I wasn't like trying to play gotcha. I would just, sometimes I would come in with a question where it's like, you showed it to me this way, but now there's this. So what does that mean? And he'd be like, right, okay, good question. I did show it to you that way. There's this next level thing where it's sort of, you can kind of make the minor thing sound a little major. You can sort of bend that B flat up into a B natural, and it's got this sort of bluesy sound. And for a certain style of bluesy rock and roll, even if the chords are major, you can kind of just force a minor thing on it and give it this like dominant pentatonic sound. Here's some other ways people do that. So he would always sort of like, he would never say, you know what, don't worry about it, or you just focus on the way I showed it to you. Or sometimes people play shit that's a little weird, don't worry about it. He would always be like, okay, let's be advanced, let's get to the bottom of the issue, let's sort of swim all the way down, let's open the treasure chest all the way down at the ocean floor, let's see what's in that. That was the mindset with this guy. So I took guitar lessons from other people after that. I took some guitar lessons from a guy in New York City called Sean Driscoll, who's great. That was sort of more jazz oriented. The thing about Ed was that he was like total heavy metal shredder. I mean, that guy could like shred like nobody's business, and he knew enough about music to sort of be able to explain like the basics of jazz harmony, but he in his heart was like a heavy metal guy. His favorite guitar player of all time was Randy Rhoads, who I also liked. I mean, I liked him because I liked him, but then I also liked him because I worshipped my guitar teacher and he liked him. So by the time I was like 18, I'd taken a lot of lessons from this guy. I didn't stop learning at that point, but I was able to kind of like, it's kind of like he said, okay, here's your library card. There's the library. Here's how you read a book. Here's how you use the card catalog. Anything you want to teach yourself, just look it up in the library and read the book, and you should be able to kind of teach yourself a lot that way. That didn't work when I was 15, but after I sort of graduated from his program, I was kind of able to do that. And in that metaphor, reading books from the library is actually just trying to figure out songs you're interested in learning. Like I remember I figured out some Keith Jarrett piano stuff from the Cone concert. I just listened to it and tried to figure it out on guitar. It was kind of hard. But then you can sort of see it, and if you can just sort of think, okay, well, he's kind of in A minor, but like what the fuck is that G sharp major 7 doing there? I mean, I'm not saying I never need to take guitar lessons anymore, because I did. But the point is, like, I was able to take lessons from somebody like Sean Driscoll, who's like a professional jazz guitarist in New York, who's super cool. And like, I wasn't starting from scratch. I was like, I tried teaching myself this Keith Jarrett thing. I don't really understand what the G sharp major 7 is doing in the key of A minor. I was able to kind of like, I've gotten the ball this close. Can you help me get it in? So I owe a lot to my teacher. And if you're in North Jersey, you should just look up Ed Furman. He'll be happy to hear from you. That guy's the best. One thing I am proud of is, like, sometimes I'll be on a session or I'll get a call. I'll be on a gig or something, and there'll be guys who, like, it'll be like a musical theater pit gig or something. I've never done it before. It'll be like people who studied jazz and went to conservatory, and I didn't. And they'll ask me, like, do you do this? Like, are you a pit? What other shows are you in? Or like, where did you study jazz? What program did you go to? Like, if I prepare, I'm able to often kind of like fool people and think that I'm like know more about that genre or that like little world of being a professional musician than I actually do, just because I was very lucky to learn guitar from somebody who gave me a kind of global understanding of it. So that's the answer to that question. Oh, right. I mean, the other thing I like about him is that I would want to learn songs, so I'd bring them in, and I'd bring in the CD, and he would just listen to it and figure it out by ear, and I'd watch him do it. You know, he would never say, "Let's look up the tabs" or "Let's look up the transcription," because the transcription is just someone else listened to it. It's very rare that a guitar player transcribes their own stuff. Like I think Guthrie Govan does it. You know, it's possible like the Steve Vai tab book was written by Steve Vai, but like Eddie Van Halen didn't do it. Like the Van Halen chord book they sell at Guitar Center, or like the full notation guitar book they sell at Guitar Center for Van Halen. That's just someone else listening to it. You know, so if you look it up, you're just getting someone else's opinion. Why not just listen to it yourself? What's your opinion? He had that kind of attitude. So ear training was important. Learning stuff by ear was important. But the other cool thing is he would then show me how to play stuff, and he would kind of weigh in too. He'd be like, you know, it's cool that they did this that way, or like, I like that part of the song where it gets super quiet. He would, I don't know, it's just sort of cool to talk about music like that. Oh, you know this, you know Sean Driscoll? That's awesome. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was great to study with him. I mean, if you know who he is and you're in New York, you just like look him up and send him an email. That's what I did. He had a YouTube video about like how to play outside that I thought was cool. And then I looked him up and he was in New York and I just emailed him. So yeah, it must have been great, but you could, if you know who he is, just write to him. You could do it. Oh, great point. Great point. Zappa did transcribe his stuff, but look what it got him. Right. Well, yeah, he's dead. Do you guys see how there's like that cool fucking scorpion icon next to Sonia's name? You see that? You guys are probably thinking like, wow, how could I get that? That's because she's a YouTube member, right? People who are YouTube members get that fucking, they call it something horrible. They call it like a loyalty badge. It's like straight out of North Korea, but you get a loyalty badge if you join my YouTube channel, and that's how you get that cool icon that I made. All right. Cool. Thank you for listening to my whole spiel. Oh, but so ultimately, you know, when I was learning all this, I would ask Ed to show me how to play this or that Van Halen song or whatever it was. You know, I wanted to learn how to play it, but I was also kind of on the lookout for like, what is the vibe? You know, like what Eddie Van Halen, what was the vibe? Well, he sort of like invented shred. Yeah, that's the vibe. You know, he made it look cool to play guitar, and he was good and he could show off. Like those are the vibes. But I feel like people who only get that far in identifying the vibe then aren't really able to do anything cool. If you just imitate the guy who's good at showing off, you're just going to show off. There's like more detail you can get. Like a lot of Eddie Van Halen's playing was sort of like wild and free, and like he would sort of swirl around the beat, and like sometimes he would, you know, bend and do this crazy great rock and roll vibrato, but then sometimes he would just bend, and then as soon as he got to the note, pinch it off and end the note right there. You know, there was this sort of like firecrackers exploding quality to his playing. You know, like I was talking before about Randy Rhoads. I like Randy Rhoads, but he would like triple track all his solos, and so they tended to have a much more sort of like orderly quality. Like this is how they go. There's one here, there's one there, there's one there. Like you're hearing all three of the same thing. It's like a more orchestrated attack. Eddie Van Halen instead was the sort of like blast of chaos that like it would be fucking hard to double, you know? Or like Steve Vai's may be a better example, because some of his solos on the first David Lee Roth solo record are doubled, and they're doubled perfectly. It's like you hear it and you're like, is that even doubled? You almost can't tell. And then it'll like harmonize it all of a sudden. And you're like, oh, it is. That's super cool too. But for whatever reason, you know, there was something kind of like sexy and athletic and like alive about the Eddie Van Halen vibe. So, you know, I can't play everything Eddie Van Halen ever played, but I was also kind of studying just like the emotional content there, what it meant to me. I was always very sort of trying to be in touch with what it meant to me, and that's what I would try to imitate, and that's what I would try to copy. Um, got it. Okay, so let me just say one last thing. Remember a second ago when I talked shit and I said that Randy Rhoads would double or triple his solos and that made it much more orderly? That's true. But there's one other thing worth noting here. I want to give Randy Rhoads some extra credit because he would double the solos and then sometimes he would make them different in like the tiniest, weirdest way. Like he wouldn't harmonize it. He'd like play one note like a whole step off or a minor second off. So like all of a sudden these two notes are just like rubbing right against each other, but it's like not something you would even hear as a harmony. You just hear it as this like insane clash, but it's right in the middle of a fast phrase. He did that enough times that I actually think it was like a trick. I don't think he just was messing up and the performances were a little off. I think he was like doing it on purpose, and that was his way of injecting some wild energy into the solo. So that is cool. That is cool. I don't want to just make him sound like a super square dude, because that is like a very hostile and very advanced thing to do, is to double your solo and then in the middle of it harmonize your shit with like a minor second. Like that is truly someone who is trying to murder the people who are listening to his playing. And I have nothing but respect for that impulse. Okay, new question. Look at this. Do you think that it's more important to have a lot of pedals for the options or a limited amount to master your own sound? Will from North Jersey. Love that you're from North Jersey, my man. Love to hear that. You don't even need to join my Patreon. Don't do it. Don't sign up for my Patreon. Don't pay money to join my YouTube channel. I will guarantee answer anyone's questions if they just say they're from North Jersey. If you just say that, I'll just treat you like you're a Patreon person for no money. Now to answer your question. I think it's more important to have a lot of pedals for the options or a limited amount to master your own sound? By far, I think it's better to have a limited amount. But that's by far the answer. That's 100% the answer. You don't need a lot of pedals for the options. The options are just going to be annoying. I did make some videos about this. I have a video called How to Never Buy Pedals Again. And that whole video is just like me answering this question. I mean, I named it like How to Stop Buying Pedals. There's a part 1 and part 2. And the whole point of those videos is like, here's some shit you can do with the pedals you already have. Or even here's some shit you can do that sounds like you're using pedals, but you're just using technique. I definitely think it's cooler to like wish you had something, and then instead of getting it, just looking at what you have and coming up with the most broken way to do it. And it's not going to sound like you got the pedal, right? Let me be clear. Like if you wish that you had it and you don't have it, and then you try to pretend you have it, it's going to sound like you don't have it. But the stuff you come up with by not having it is going to be cool. I didn't use any pedals for like the first 10 years. Like when I was taking guitar lessons from my guy, like I didn't give a shit about pedals. I was like, pedals is for people who can't do it. I was annoying. I mean, I used a distortion pedal, but I was like, that's, there was not a lot of cyber shit happening back then. I was just trying to be able to shred good. All right. So that's my answer to your question. Options can be annoying because then it's like, which option are you going to do? You see the problem? All right. What else do I got here? Here's one from Dave Loves Bins. Is there a genre of music you've never been able to enjoy? I want to tell you that I don't have that, that I don't even care about genre, that I'm just listening for vibes, whatever the genre of music is that like, we're going to kill you, I like it. Like anything that's being played with this attitude where it's like, hey, we're trying to make this sort of fun and good, but also fuck you. I'm like, yes, I like that. I'd like to tell you that, but there are some genres I've never been able to enjoy. whatever the fucking like pirate sea shanty thing is in Boston like 10 years ago. I couldn't do it. I mean, I'm not even from Boston, but like people I went to college with who were from there. You know, I get this like punk ska or ska punk or the shit where it's like, you know, I don't know, people yelling about like being on a sea ship or something. You guys know the kind of shit I'm talking about? Like flogging Molly or whatever it was. That never been able to like that. That might be it though. That might be it. I'm trying to think. I remember once when I was like 19, 20, 21, my summer job was working at this like car place in Englewood, New Jersey. I was like a junior mechanic. Wasn't even a mechanic. I was doing like oil changes and Mickey Mouse bullshit. I didn't really know how to do anything cool, but I worked at this place where they fixed cars. And so sometimes my job was to like drive to the parts warehouse to pick up parts so they could do the repair faster. You know, like if some guy showed up and his alternator needed to be replaced, they would order a new alternator, and then instead of waiting for it to be delivered, I would like drive to Paramus and go to the warehouse and get it and come back with it. And I would use like they had me doing customer cars. So sometimes I would like they would be like, you know, test the brakes. Like while you're driving the car, see if the brakes work. So I would do that. But the other thing I would always do is I would just listen to the radio and try to harmonize with whatever song it was on the radio. That was like the thing I did to not get bored out of my mind during this job. I would just like try to sing along to whatever. When I remember doing this job, I remember more of like that kind of shit than like whatever I learned about how to balance a wheel or something. Although I did at one time know how to do stuff like that. Okay, what's the point of the story? So I would always get in these customer cars and turn on the radio and try to harmonize to whatever was on CBS FM. I remember one time it was a PT Cruiser and I turned on the radio and the CD was on. Like I didn't get the radio, I got the CD they've been listening to. And the CD in this PT Cruiser was like a compilation called like Portuguese Nights or something. And it was just like instrumental, new agey, super watered down Portuguese jazz with like club beats under it. You know, no singing, just sort of. It was like the weirdest like music product ever, and it felt like the musical equivalent of a PT Cruiser. It was just like this instrumental like bossa nova backing tracks with like, you know, club beats. It sounds like the sort of background music at like a spa or something. It was just like music. But the thing that blew my mind was that it was like it wasn't in the spa. Like it wasn't that some corporation had to play music at their corporate location, and so they had to pick something that was like inoffensive and would be background music. It was like a person listened to this, and like I was really overcome by it. I was like, that's fucking weird that like someone bought this CD. Where the fuck do you buy this CD? You know, it felt like the kind of CD that you buy in the back of a Party City or something, where it's like they sell those CDs that are like Halloween sounds. So if you like throw a haunted house, you can buy the CD that's just like rattling chains. It's like a CD of like sound effects. It's got like 45 fucking tracks that are just like sound effects. Next to that CD, there's some like Night in Portugal compilation mix that is just like background bossa nova shit with like a techno beat under it. I was just like, that's weird that I'm driving the car of like the person who buys their CDs at Party City, you know? And then also I was like, this is why New Jersey is incredible. This is why. Like I didn't know that person was alive, but obviously they would live in New Jersey if they were alive. You know? So I was like, that's why New Jersey is kind of crazy. So that's a genre of music that I can't say I like it, you know, like the Party City CD collection. I'm not gonna tell you I like that stuff, but it's kind of interesting to think about, like from a philosophy of art perspective. You know, it's like the movie they made about Kenny G, right? The music of Kenny G or whatever. It's like kind of the same thing. All right. Cool. Any other questions? What else you guys want to talk about? What else do you guys want to do? I got some more backlog questions here. Let's go through them. Oh yeah, here's one. Here's one that I was like, oh Jesus, am I gonna do this? From Nick Provenzano. What's up, my man? Modal interchange is something I've really wanted to learn more about and think it would be cool to hear you talk about it. I'm not the guy to talk about this. I kind of don't understand why this is a thing that needs to have a name like that. Like when I first heard your question, I was like, I don't know what modal interchange is, but I probably don't believe in it. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, I guess I do believe in that. My understanding is that this is just sort of like chords that are outside the key that still sort of sound cool in the key. Like I'm not going to be able to explain modal interchange using the language of people who use terms like modal interchange. It sounds a little bit to me like a YouTube video title. I mean, maybe it's cool. Like maybe if I watch those videos, I would have a better understanding of this myself. So I don't want to talk shit, but on the other hand, it's like, do you want to be a person who walks around saying things like modal interchange? You know what I mean? It's like hard enough not to sound like an asshole talking about all this stuff. You got to make it that much harder for yourself by saying the words modal interchange. I mean, never in my life have I been in a rehearsal where somebody was like, yo, you know what this song needs? Do the modal interchange. You know, like I've heard musicians say some stupid stuff, but I've never heard that. Anyway, I'm sorry for talking trash. Yeah, I don't know. I'll say this, like, if you shouldn't even be like, you're not ready for whether or not modal interchange is real. You're not ready to learn about it if you don't already know that like every key has 7 chords, right? If you're in the key, you can sort of just find the notes of that key by playing a major scale off of the key you're in. So if you're in the key of F sharp, play a major scale off of F sharp, and those are the 7 notes that are going to sound good in F sharp. You can also build chords off of each of those notes. The 7 notes that sound good in F sharp also create 7 chords. And those chords are all going to sort of have the same qualities, whatever key you're in. The first one is a major chord. Then you got 2 minor chords, then a major chord, another major chord, then another minor chord, then a diminished chord, right? So you got 7 chords that are like the building blocks of the key you're in. Sometimes there are chords that are not those 7 chords that are still sort of cool, right? Like if you're in the key of G major, C wants to make a major chord. C major is a chord in the key of G major. But if you make that C minor, that's going to have a very specific recognizable vibe. If you make the 4 chord in any key minor, you should just do it right now. You'll hear it. You'll be like, oh, that's that sound. I tend to think of things this way and not in the modal interchange way. To me, that's just how I see it. It's like you've got these 7 chords, or sometimes you borrow chords from other keys. Yeah, borrowing key chords is another way to think about it, but that's a little weird because then it just makes you think you're in the other key, or you're sort of taking something that belongs to the other key, and if you're doing it in the key you're in, it still sort of belongs to the key you're in. It's just a little tense. There's some tension in it. I'm sorry that I can't really explain this better, but I think the way to learn about this is to like work through the shit that gives you the 7 chords of whatever key you're in. Like make sure that is a familiar thing to you, and then start seeing chord progressions as just those chords that are in the key. You know, like 1, 6, 4, 5 in any key is going to have a very classic sound, especially if you play it in 6/8 time. Start to sort of live in that world. Excuse me, sorry. Start to live in that world, and then anytime you see something that isn't one of those chords, see if you can kind of see it as like, see if you can force it into the key. So it's like we're in a major key, but we're playing the 6th chord 1/2 step lower, and it's major. So like normally that's not what the 6th chord is, but see if you can sort of force it to be in the key you're in, and like make a note like that's what the flat 6 major chord sounds like. That's how I sort of see things that I guess other people see as modal interchange. Maybe modal interchange is the better way to do it. You know, it might be, but in that case, then you got to go to that guy's AMA. You got to go to the YouTube channel of the guy who said modal interchange is good, and I'm not an asshole for saying that. and then ask him in his Ask Me Anything. All right. Oh yeah, this was funny. This is good. Here's a good funny question. Um, this is from the Austin Blaine. What's the best word you've added to your arsenal thanks to that Mac Doc dictionary? So I guess he must have seen some videos where I have like screenshots on my computer, and he noticed that I have the software dictionary in my dock at all times, the dock of my little MacBook computer. Yeah, I keep a dictionary there. I don't know what the best word is. I'm really trying not to get carried away with like vocabulary. I mean, you could probably tell from the way I just like needlessly attacked anyone who would say the words modal interchange seriously, right? It's clear that I have some sort of like neurotic issue with like saying stuff that leaves you vulnerable to be criticized for being a snob. Why would I be like that? Well, I did name my whole fucking YouTube thing How to Be Advanced. I mean, I think that's a funny title, and I do my best to be advanced. But there is a part of me that's like, wait. Have I just created this thing where it's like I was in the honors classes in high school, and it was like a little harder to lose my virginity as a result? Like, am I just doing that again? Like, can't do that. Better make sure we like use some curse words too, and like, just be very sort of hostile and weirdly antagonistic to people on YouTube so that nobody thinks that I'm actually the valedictorian. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm not. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what my favorite like annoying word that I learned from the dictionary is. Like I don't want to go back to being a virgin. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You tell me. You guys tell me what's the most annoying thing I ever said where I sounded like a coastal elite. What was the worst, most like snobby coastal elite bullshit I ever said? Take your best shot. You're free to attack. Use lethal force. All right, let's keep going. Here's sort of an intense one from Joe Schmo. Where do you hope to be in 5 years? Cool. Thank you for calling me into this human resources meeting. I'd like to have my original music sort of take some of the place of what my pedal videos are. Like people know me as a guy who makes pedal videos, and then some of my like most hardcore fans make it over to my music videos, even though they're on the same channel or listen to my Spotify or whatever. It's been a while since I put my record out, so that's part of it. But in the next 5 years, I want to release more original music and have that become like a bigger part of what my deal is. I've also been on some records that might be a big deal when they come out, but they haven't been released yet, like with other people who are more famous than I am. And so I'm hoping that can also help me get a little bit more. I'd like to be more known as someone who like plays the guitar on real records and creates original music instead of someone who just shows you how to do that using gear. I mean, I like making the pedal videos. Don't get me wrong. I'll make as many pedal videos as I have to make so that I can stop making pedal videos. I like making pedal videos. Oh, look at this. Did I just get $10 from this guy with the unpronounceable username JSLSM6? That's cool that your name sounds like a speaker. That's cool that when you were born, your dad was like, oh, I think I'm going to love this kid even more than I love my Bose. So I'm going to give him the name of a Bose. I'm sorry, man. Thanks for your $10. I'm sure that's not what your dad said. I'm sure you have a beautiful name. Thank you for giving me all that money. That's awesome. Look at that. I really appreciate it. How did you get so damn gangster? PS returns to virginity are a bummer. Dude, returns to virginity are the worst. People don't even talk about that. People don't even talk about how like you could lose your virginity but still be a virgin. It's terrible. You could have sex and then still be like so fucking out of it and like so clueless that like you still are just a virgin. I've seen it happen. It hasn't happened to me, but I know people who are like they had sex but they're still virgins because they just like they missed it. Like they did it, but they sort of, it's like you go to a movie and you like spend the whole time not paying attention and like you didn't learn what the movie was about. And like, it's almost as if you didn't see the movie. You know what I mean? That's the thing that can happen with people's sex lives. So the point is what is the point? I don't know. We're all on our own. Thank you for the question. How did you get so damn gangster? I mean, if that's really a question you want me to answer, it's the shit I told you with my guitar teacher. Earlier in this video, I spent a long time talking about what kind of student I was with my guitar teacher. I was lucky to find him. Let me also say this. I was lucky that like we found the guitar teacher sort of near my town, and like my parents were happy to do it. Like my parents were supportive. There are people who can do more with less than I do, and those people are more talented than I am. And then there are people who have however much talent I had. There's other people who had that much talent, but they didn't get to find the guitar teacher who's going to make it click, or they didn't have the support network that I had. And, those people are less fortunate than I am. So I was sort of lucky that the sort of teacher that was going to make it happen for me was within a 20-minute drive from my house. So that's part of how we got gangster. I mean, I feel like the least gangster thing you could possibly say is that it's due to my privilege, but I think there's some truth to that. Then meanwhile, how else did I do it? I mean, I'm a competitive person too. I want it. I'm ambitious. Like I'm willing to sort of keep working at this shit and make more YouTube videos and like finish videos that are hard and like learn how to play shit I don't know how to play, just because I give a fuck and I want to win the race. I mean, I don't need to come in first place, but like I was on the cross country team in high school, and like one thing that was judged very harshly on my team was like if you stop running during the race, or if even during the workout, if you like walk a little bit, they were just like, don't ever do that. Like if you're really having a fucking issue, just run slow, just jog. I don't know if you know this, but it's like possible to run so slowly that you're running at the speed that a normal person walks. You can even run slower than that. And that was the message of my high school sports program. It was just like, never do the switch from running to walking. Just run as slow as you have to run, but don't stop running. It's undignified to do that. So I sort of took that to heart. I was just like, you might beat me. I'm not the fastest guy in the world, but I am not going to make the decision to just give up. I'll take the L. That's fine. I think what I'm saying here isn't that you should like not tolerate defeat. Like you're going to have to learn to tolerate defeat quite well in order to have a successful music career. But the point is that like after the defeat, you gotta just still be the guy who's like, well, I'm gonna do this again, and I'm not gonna take myself out of the race. If I have to lose, that's fine, but like I'm gonna run all the way to the finish line. And if I don't do as well as I want to, I'm just gonna have to do it again after that. That's the attitude. All right, look at this. Someone just gave me a Mac computer, 8-core. I don't know what that means. 8-core. That's hysterical. That means something. I just need to get a screen for it. What the fuck? You have they make Mac computers that don't have screens? I've never used Mac before. That's a funny way to say that. I've never used Mac before. Will there be a big learning curve? What do you think? Oh, dude, you know more about this than I do. That's clear to everybody. I'm so sorry I can't actually answer your question. Anyone who comes in here saying shit like 8-core in parentheses knows a lot more about this than I do. I don't fucking know. It sounds like you know, though. I think you're going to be fine. I mean, if you're buying computers that don't have screens, I mean, you're either like the dumbest person that ever lived, or there's some version of buying computers that don't have screens that is like actually advanced and is like complicated, and you're doing that and you're going to be fine. And I'm sure it's that. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool that you just were able to like type a comment on a YouTube live stream with no screen on your computer. You see what I'm saying? It sounds like you're a prodigy. Like, look at this guy in the comments who was like able to type comments and put them in a live stream on a computer that literally does not have a screen. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like you should be the guy with the YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Everybody look at the man who can use a computer without a screen. That's next level shit, dude. I have no idea what the answer to your question is, though. Yeah, here we go. Remember when I said, what's the most annoying coastal elite thing I ever said, Evan? Evan nailed it due to my privilege. Yeah, you got me. You got me. That's true. You know, it's a real fucking tiny little line there where you like want to be real about the political realities, but you also don't want to use language that just makes you sound like, you know, annoying. It's a fucking vanishingly small line, but we all gotta live in the world. 2-time state champions here. XC. Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you look at me telling you how to run a race. It sounds like you're better than I was. So good for you, man. It just pretend everything is high school sports. that's really my whole message here. That's really the sort of secret religion behind every paddle video I've ever made, is that you should approach your life like everything is high school sports. Okay, that's what I do. That's why in like half my videos I'm wearing the hooded, not this hooded sweatshirt. It's just a Nike hooded sweatshirt. It has some high school vibe, but I also wear my actual high school cross country hooded sweatshirt and I have my videos. 2024 presidential predictions. Oh, I don't fucking know. I mean, how, like, I have no idea. I mean, I guess it might be Joe Biden and it might be Donald Trump, but it might be Ron DeSantis. Like, you know, if someone would take a bet where it's like those three people or not those three people, you know, I would take those three people. I don't know who it's going to be. How can I fucking know that? I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really like thinking about it though. I can't say that I'm like, you know, it's a little hard for me to picture the 2024 presidential election where I'm like, oh, cool. you know that feeling where you just look at it like, oh, good. Like I don't feel like that. That, you know, I already sort of know that. I'm not saying I'm too cool for either party. Let me make that clear. I'm not doing the thing where I'm like the independent, like moderate who's like too cool for the Democrats or the Republicans. You know, I'm not that. I've got no problem telling you I'll be voting for the Democratic candidate. I don't like the Democrats. I think they're inept and annoying and they can't do anything right. I don't, you know, it'd be wrong to say that I like admire them, but I think they're the better choice. And it's usually fairly clear to me. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm losing anybody here, but it is called Ask Me Anything. So I got no problem telling you, like, voting for Joe Biden in 2020 was like one of the easiest decisions I made that year. It's not because I fucking love Joe Biden, though. It's just because I was making a choice. How many is too many pedals? I don't know. I don't know how many pedals I have. I have no idea. Should we just pick a number? Let's say 15. What was the most disappointing pedal of 2022? Did you use it on a track? Any pedal I used on a track would be not a disappointment. I mean, it has to be good for me to use it on a track. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't play that many pedals. I mean, every video I put out on 2022 is a pedal I made, a pedal I played. I don't make pedals. Every video I made in 2022 is a pedal I got, and then maybe I played a couple extra ones I didn't make videos about, but that's it. What is this? People are saying shit I don't understand. 5-time gold medal champion in Le Jeu de Quebec Games, living life as if in my teens and 20s. LOL. You're a 5-time gold medal champion in some Canadian Olympics thing? I don't really understand what's happening in this comment, but it sounds like you've won 5 gold medals. That's cool. You know, what does anybody have a question for a guy who won 5 gold medals? I don't know what the fucking Le Jeu de Quebec is, though. The Quebec Games. I mean, no offense, dude, but is that just like people playing games in a park? You know, it sounds a little bit like I played Frisbee in Quebec and I won 5 gold medals. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure it's cooler than that. I'm sure it's cooler than that. But on the other hand, if you just show up to some guy's YouTube live stream and start talking about winning gold medals, you know, that's like almost as annoying as me saying it's all due to my privilege. You know, people are gonna call you on that. It's only right. It's only right. You mentioned last AMA that you were thinking of getting another synth besides the OP1. Did the Octatrack end up filling that role for you? Oh, cool. Yeah, it was very hard to learn the Octatrack, but now I want one. But I didn't own it. I got it because of this service, buy or borrow. You guys know about this? It's like Netflix. Remember the original Netflix when they were like mailing DVDs to your house? This is like that, but they mail you like synthesizers and pedals and shit. It's like a new company, buy or borrow music. So I've been working with them where they'll like send me gear and I have it, and then I make a video about it and I talk about them, and I, it's sort of giving me a nice little discount on the gear that I rent from them. It's like it's like a professional courtesy thing. So I got the Octatrack from that, but I had to send it back when I was done. And now I kind of miss it. So I'd like to get another synth besides the OP1. I'd like to have it be that. But on the other hand, like, don't those things cost like $1,500? I'm not gonna buy a synthesizer. My whole fucking thing is like, if I don't have it, I'll just have to figure out a way to do it. I mean, $1,500, like, you know what I mean? I make money from views. I make money because people showed them, I asked me anything, give me $10. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna buy the synthesizer that costs $10. Do I have a day job? No, it's all music stuff. It's all like getting paid from YouTube, getting paid from Patreon. Please feel free to join my Patreon. There's a link in the bio. I teach guitar. I play guitar on people's records. I get hired. What else do I do? I have affiliate links with Perfect Circuit. There's a link for that in my video description. If you want to buy an Octatrack and you buy it from Perfect Circuit, use the link in my video description to go to Perfect Circuit. I'll get a commission on it. I don't just get paid from views. I get paid most of the time. I get paid to make the video in the first place. Like, if such and such pedal company sends me the pedal, they're also paying me to make the video at this point. There are a couple exceptions to that, but they're rare. So it's all stuff like that. No, it's the provincial championship. Okay. I mean, for anyone who's like not from Canada, it means nothing. I'm really sorry, you haven't clarified it at all. You know what I mean? It's the provincial. I don't know what that is. What's the provincial championship? I'm really sorry, I'm making funny, man. If you really want 5 gold medals, I'm sure you're a champion. That's cool. I'm only having fun with you because it seems like you're such a successful champion that I'm sure you can take it. I'm sitting down after work to try and write some things. Tell me what tone I should jam around on. Is it HM2 clone fuzz, or is it chorus verb joy division? I don't know. Try to write something that'll murder people when they hear it. Pick that. Here's what I do anytime I make a record. I imagine like the record's done and it's been uploaded to Spotify. And like people are like, oh, I haven't made a new record. And then they like they put on their headphones, because that's how people listen to my records, right? Everybody puts on headphones and like closes their eyes and listens real close, right? That's how everybody consumes music. So I imagine they put on the headphones and they go to Spotify and they're like, let's play the record from the beginning. And then they push play, and then the first microsecond of the song begins and they just die. They're just like, oh, and then they're dead, because I found how to record the waveform that would murder somebody. That's the vibe you should use. Did you personally construct the wall cabinet behind you? No. Look at this. I wouldn't necessarily pick the Octatrack for you. Seems like it's best for techno tweakers or people chopping samples for hip hop or glitchy EDM. Your vid on was really cool though. Well, thanks. I mean, I still want to do the things I said in my video. Like the sounds I got in my video, I just want to use those again. I just want those things. So that's why I wish I had one. Do you have any audio software you enjoy misusing, like the gear in your video? Yes, GarageBand. At some point, I want to make a video called GarageBand How to Be Advanced. There's some real cool shit happening in GarageBand if you just are hostile to it. Did you catch the World Cup final, or do you not give a shit about sports, international or otherwise? I didn't really watch the World Cup. I like boxing. Boxing is the sport I care about, and high school cross country I care about, but that's it. So I wasn't really into the World Cup. I'm sorry. I know it's important. Oh, and I'm finally watching the Netflix thing about Michael Jordan and the Bulls in the 90s, The Last Dance. I love that. That's like the best thing I've ever seen. No, but I don't really know about sports except for boxing. And even boxing is sort of like a weird anti-sport. I mean, that's actually why I liked running and boxing, was because it's not like I've never been good at like throw the ball into the thing, hit the thing into the thing. Like I've never been good at that. But if there's like some weird anti-sport where like the whole thing is just like, what if you could just obliterate yourself? You know, like what if you just went running and then you didn't stop and you weren't like having fun, like playing tag, you were just sort of running and it became excruciating and then you kept running. I was like, oh, that's a sport. I might be able to do that. If you're just saying I just have to have some sort of like insane perverted sense of like discipline and self-destruction, like maybe I could do that well, you know? And then a little bit later, it's like, what if there was a sport where you could just sort of get punched in the face and be okay? I was like, oh, and I don't have to like learn how to do the thing and get the ball into the goal. It's just like being okay with getting hit in the face and then maybe wailing on the other guy, you know? I'm maybe if it's just some sort of like insane test of will, maybe I could do that. So that's why I didn't really watch the World Cup. I'm sorry. Arturia Micro Freak is an excellent sub $400 synth, but I think you've covered with what you have. Thank you for that. I mean, I'm trying not to spend any amount of money just because it's like I don't need more gear, you know. Would you ever use digital pedals like Zoom or some other multi-stomp? Well, sure. I mean, yes. Why wouldn't I? What would I be afraid of? I mean, I already use the Strymon stuff and love it. Yeah, I don't believe that there's any kind of issue with digital. I mean, maybe there are digital pedals that don't sound very good. I'm sure that's true, but I don't think the problem is that your signal was converted to analog to digital before it went in the bad pedal, right? I think the problem is that like they used the digital to analog to digital conversion that was fine, and then there was a pedal that didn't sound very good. I don't give a fuck about the fact that my waveform was converted to ones and zeros. I really don't think you can hear like sampling errors. In fact, if I could, I would like it. If there was the same, that's what a bit crusher is, and I like them. Do you use your action figures as motivation? That's a great question. I think you know, if you mean like, do I look at the action figure and I'm like, man, look at Wolverine. I should just try to be more like Wolverine. Yeah, look at his claws. I should be like that. I almost do that. It's the Terminator though. It's not Wolverine. It's I almost look at my Terminator action figure and it's like, I should just try to be more like the good Terminator in Judgment Day. I basically do that without holding the action figure and thinking about it. That's why I have a music video for Invincible, and it's just the Terminator action figure walking around my hometown. I made a music video that is just my hometown on Google Maps, and then the Terminator action figure walking around it, and then like me playing guitar. You know, that was basically the whole message. Is that that's like that? I'm still trying to do that. Right? It's like being good on the cross country team wasn't enough. I had to be a invincible killer robot from the future. You know, that was the vibe. Remember the scene where he's like, when John Connor is crying and he's like, "What's wrong with your eyes?" I was like, that's a cool thing to say. Next time I see somebody cry, I'm just going to say, "What's wrong with your eyes?" So the answer to your question is yes. If you're working on a body of work, multiple songs, are you generally plonking out one song at a time, or do you jump around and work on a bit of everything at once? Oh man, I love it when people ask me questions about this. It's a bit of everything at once. It's a bit of everything at once. It takes me a very long time to finish a song. Specifically, it actually takes me a very long time to write the lyrics. I can sort of get like a cool chord progression and a cool melody or something that I think is cool and just sort of strum it on the guitar and be like, oh yeah, that could sound good. And then it takes me a really long time to write the lyrics, but just because that's the point where like, you know, you really got to make sure you're also, if I'm going to sing it, I have to make sure I'm okay with saying it over and over again and like meaning it. I'm not a good enough singer to just make a dumb lyric sound good. There are many singers who can do that. You know what I'm saying? I believe that children are our future. I don't know what the fuck that means, but when Whitney Houston says it, I'm like, well, it must mean something because that sounded pretty good. Okay, why? It's because Whitney Houston is like, you know, as good a singer as has ever lived, and I am not. So it takes me a long time to figure out the lyrics. And also it's because it's like, it's, you gotta, I find it easier to sort of nail the emotion from the sounds and the music of it. I feel like I'm able to come up with like the sounds and the textures and the chords and the melodies that are like, that sounds like what I'm feeling. C sharp minor 11. I don't know what to say about it, but it sounds right. Okay. So it takes me a while to then come up with the lyrics where I'm like, yeah, this is what the song's about, everybody. Okay. Are you happy now? But I also like lyrics. I like it when I come up with lyrics that I do think are cool. I like to start with the title. That's what sort of keeps me, I think, sort of keeps things under control. It's like I like to have a good title where I'm so fired up about the title that I'm like, I want to write a song that's called that. Like when I thought of the title Scared Out of My Mind, I was like, oh yeah, I do want to write a song. I think that's a cool title. If I was looking at the back of a CD and the guy wrote a song called Scared Out of My Mind, I'd be like, oh, I wonder what he's scared of. That's interesting. So I like to have the I like to have the title and have that be the sort of thing that keeps me going, even though it takes me a really long time. Your assault on effects pedals is the same approach as your approach to sports and life. Run that shit into the ground. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm touched that you would say something like that. Thank you. Song title, What's Wrong with Your Eyes? Yeah, exactly. I like it a little more as a lyric than as a title, because the title is like, oh, it's a Terminator reference. And at that point, it's like, are they even going to listen to your song? Like, you just made them think about the Terminator. I like it more as like, I'm talking about something and you sort of think you're hearing the song. And then somehow I like get to a part in the second verse where I say, what's wrong with your eyes? And you almost don't even notice that's a Terminator line. I mean, it would be hard to do this, but that's what I would want to do. I would want to write a song where you think I'm like talking about, somebody with lasers coming out of their eyes or whatever. And then I say, what's wrong with your eyes? And then like later people are like, oh shit, I think that guy is talking about the Terminator. When Frank Ocean said balls sticking to my jeans. Oh, I don't remember what we're talking about. What's that from? What's your favorite guitar pedal to run through vocals? Oh yeah, people ask me this question. I don't do that. I don't do anything about that. It's so fucking hard for me to make my vocals sound good and to sing the song and to write the lyrics. It's like by the time I make it that far, I've worked so hard that I don't want to fuck with the vocals. A part of my Cyber Attack original music, part of the vibe there is that the track is like the weirdest thing you've ever heard, and then the lyrics and the vocals is just, it's like there's Ivan. You know what I mean? Like, the music is the part of the video that has the like special effects and the action figure and the pixels, and then the lyrics is the part where it's like, this is what I look like, this is my face, this is like, my name's Ivan, hi, like here's me, this is what I'm trying to tell you about myself. Like I want there to be, you remember when I was talking about Glenn Frey and the Eagles earlier? I'm kind of trying to do that. He's a better singer than I am, but I'm just trying to do this thing where like the guy sings it and he just does it straight. And you're like, okay, yeah, I must be what he's talking about. That's just my taste in my own music. That's what I'm trying to do, really. All right. Is there any other questions I wanted to do that I didn't do yet? Here's one. From CB. I mostly like to play with other people in a room together, but people who I would enjoy playing with live too far away. What would you do in my situation? I'm really curious to know like how you think I could possibly answer this question. Like, in what world do I know the solution to this problem for you? You know what I mean? Yeah, it sounds like a problem. If I understand correctly, you like to play with other people, but the people you want to play with are too far away, leaving no one for you to play with. Like, what the fuck am I going to do for you? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Let me see if I can help you, my man. Thank you for coming to my Ask Me Anything and submitting your questions, CB. Let me see what I could do. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to make adjustments. Okay, like this guy got there pretty quick. Craigslist. You might have to meet some new people. I've tried to meet new people on Craigslist. It's bad. It's the people you're gonna meet, the musicians you're gonna meet on Craigslist are, they're not. They're gonna be weird. Um, the larger thing here is you're gonna, I don't know which thing it's gonna be, but you're gonna have to make some adjustments. You're either gonna have to drive a little bit farther than you want to drive, or play with people you a little bit don't want to play with, or spend a little more time trying to meet new people who might know people, or you're gonna have to adjust to emailing back and forth, or you're gonna have to adjust to using Zoom. I don't know, but the mindset here is that you're gonna have to make adjustments. Okay, you could do anything you want if you make adjustments. I really believe that. If you think you want this thing, if you're willing to sort of just make a little bit of an adjustment to what you want or how you're willing to get what you want, you can get something that's basically the same as what you want. We were talking about boxing before. One thing I like about Floyd Mayweather Jr. is that he said the same thing after every single one of his fights. Before his fights, he was good at being the heel. He was good at being annoying. He was good at playing the villain. He would do annoying stuff with like throwing his money around and talking shit. And he could be a jackass that would make everybody want to root against him. They made me roll my eyes too. But notably, he didn't do that after his fights, and he always won. You've never seen a post-fight interview where Floyd Mayweather lost. He's undefeated, 50-0. Every single time he ever won, and you put a microphone in his face and asked him, what do you think about that fight? He didn't do the annoying Money Mayweather stuff. He always kind of said the same thing. In fact, it was kind of boring. He would say, I respect my opponent. He's a good fighter, but I made adjustments. I mean, I'm sure he didn't say it every single time. Like, I'm sure you're going to now go look it up, and there'll be fights where he didn't say that, but he said it a lot. And I think it's cool that the guy who never lost a professional boxing match is that. You might try to imagine, like, well, let's close our eyes and just think, like, who would be the guy who would never, ever lose a professional boxing match? And you're probably imagining some, like, scary, invincible psycho who's, like, the most crazy killer you ever could think of, right? And, like, Floyd Mayweather's not that. Like, he's not huge. He didn't really fuck people up that much. He was just very quick and very skillful, and he made adjustments. He would lose early rounds. It's like sometimes I would watch fights of his with some of my friends who like weren't into boxing, and they would sort of be like, "What's the big deal here?" In fact, I think Floyd Mayweather's losing. Like the first couple rounds, he would kind of just be like taking measurements, and then around round 4, round 5, he'd be like, "Okay, got the data." It's like the moment where you write the formula in the spreadsheet, and then you push return, and you're about to see the spreadsheet do the whole thing and put in all the values based on the little stuff you put in. It's like he pushes return on his Excel spreadsheet where he sort of measured your jab, and he measured your reach, and he measured your timing, and he's sort of been looking at you the whole time. And then he's like, okay, round 4, time to push enter. And all of a sudden now, like you can't. He made the adjustments. Instead of going like this, he goes like this. And instead of coming from here, he comes from there. And instead of using this, he uses this. He makes all these little adjustments, and now he can hit you whenever he wants, and you can't hit him anymore. And the guys he would beat, they didn't look like they were about to die. It's not like you see the guys that lost to Floyd Mayweather and they like needed to be hospitalized immediately. But it looks like they were just extremely frustrated and exhausted from like trying to catch a chicken the whole time. Like imagine just trying to chase a chicken for 12 3-minute rounds, and like by the time it's over, you're like, just you don't feel good after that. Like it's just annoying to be stifled over and over and over. You can't even do one thing. It's just like, here, take this out of my hands. You can't do it. Here, hit me in the face. You can't do it. That's like, who's the best guy at making adjustments who ever lived? That's who it is. It's the best professional boxer of his generation. So I would say to you, start thinking that way. Start asking yourself, how can I make an adjustment? Because if you get good at that, you'll be a true champion. How much you want to bet the Montreal guy who was talking about winning 5 gold medals in the provincial things? How much you want to bet that guy knows how to make adjustments? Where is he? Where is this dude? This guy, Glenn. It's the last. Remember when I asked him what the fuck is your provincial tournament that you're talking about? Well, he answered the question. It's the last step to being a member of Canada's Olympic judo team. I'm pretty sure the U.S. has one of those too. You're talking about running. Oh, so you're like a judo guy? That's pretty cool. Well, yeah, I bet he knows how to make adjustments. So that's my answer to you, man. You're gonna have to make an adjustment, and I think it'll be fine. You know, it's gonna be okay. You'll either meet new people, or you'll travel a little farther, or you'll learn about the joys of collaborating over Zoom. One way or another, I promise you, it's just gonna be fine. You're gonna have a good time. All right, that's my little message to everybody. You can have whatever you want if you just make adjustments. And thank you for being a part of my Ask Me Anything. You guys are hysterical in the comments. Thank you also for hanging with some of my misplaced aggression and hostility. You know, I know I sort of made fun of you back there. I'm sorry. I meant to do it affectionately. You can always make fun of me. Feel free. Feel free to take a shot. I feel like you guys are actually nicer than me than you needed to be. In the meantime, thank you very much for being a part of this. I love doing these Ask Me Anythings. It's truly my favorite thing about being a YouTube guy. I like seeing the sort of weird culture and the callbacks that comes in the chats. You know, I really appreciate it. If you want to support me, you can buy gear from Perfect Circuit using one of my affiliate links. I have my affiliate link in the video description. If you click that and buy anything you want, I'll get a commission. You can also sign up for my YouTube channel or Patreon. In a week or two, I'm going to do a special live stream only for my Patreon people, only for my YouTube members, both of them together, where I talk about like the science of sound. Like when you push record and you watch your computer make a little waveform based on what you're playing, what's happening? Why is it a waveform? Why is the shit we hear a waveform? And what is your computer doing? And what happens when you push play? I'm going to explain all that. And anyone who's in my YouTube or paid YouTube thing or my Patreon thing will be able to come see it. Normally stuff like this is for like my higher levels, but for the first one, I'm going to let anyone on any level do it. So you could even join my YouTube or my Patreon thing at like the lowest price tier, and you'll come in on this first one. And then if you love it and you want to see the next one where I finish explaining the science of sound, you can re-up if you want. In the meantime, thank you again for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. And now I just have to do the part where I navigate over to my old little goodbye video thing.